Thank you for staying with us. A recent report by the Gauteng Department of Water and Sanitation has showed a slight decrease in dam levels in the province. The provincial system shows that 14 dams suffered a decrease, descending to 95.6% from last week's 95.8%. The department has emphasized the importance of water preservation despite the integrated Vaal River system's good standing. It, however, says the decline is not alarming. Joining me now is Dr. Sean Phillips, Director General at the Department of Water and Sanitation. Dr. Phillips, good to have you on the program this afternoon. Firstly, give us an overview, or provide an overview for us on this recent report by the Gauteng Department of Water and Sanitation regarding the current water levels in the region's dams.
Thank you very much, Nklandla. It isn't the Gauteng Department of Water and Sanitation, it's the regional office of the National Department of Water and Sanitation.
Right.
It's a relatively minor drop in the dam levels. Actually, throughout the country, the dams are all relatively full. But it doesn't mean that we can all use as much water as we want for two reasons. Firstly is that we don't drink or use the water straight from the dams. It first has to be treated so that it becomes drinkable water. And it has to be stored in reservoirs and then distributed through our drinking water systems. So we don't have sufficient treatment capacity to simply treat all the water that's sitting in the dams. The second reason is that while there's been good rainfall in recent years, so the dams are all relatively full in the country, there's no guarantee that we're going to continue getting good rainfall in future years. And we need to use water sparingly so that when we get the next period of drought, there's sufficient water left in the dams to last us through the drought period.
Now, while the integrated Vaal River system maintains a reasonably good standing, the dam levels in Gauteng have seen a slight decrease. Could you elaborate on the significance, really, of this decrease and its potential implications here?
It's not significant. It's a very insignificant decrease. The dams were closer to 100% full. They're now 95% full. So there's no risk in the foreseeable future for us having water shortages in Gauteng due to the level of water in the dams. But as I indicated, the water from the Vaal River system has to be treated by Rand Water before it can be supplied to municipalities. And because Gauteng's population is growing so fast, and because municipalities have some leaks in their systems and lose some water, the difference between the ability of Rand Water to supply treated water and the demand for water is quite tight. So sometimes when something goes wrong, when there's bad load shedding or something breaks, then there's a temporary shortage of treated water in Gauteng. But we're not at any risk of having shortages of water in Gauteng due to the dam levels.
So you've mentioned that the decline isn't necessarily alarming, but rather a reminder to manage water resources efficiently. Could you explain how the department plans to ensure efficient water resource management in light of these fluctuations here?
Well, we engaged in various measures to try and ensure efficient resource management. Both ourselves and the water boards and the municipalities have ongoing communication programs to the citizens of the country where we emphasize that we're a water-scarce country and we need to treat water as a scarce commodity because we do go through cycles of drought and then reasonable rain. And we need to be able to survive the periods of drought. And if we use very high amounts of water, then during the periods of drought, there's going to be scarcity and there's not going to be enough water for everybody to get water.
I want to take the comments of Professor Anthony Turton, who's mentioned that water security is not solely dependent on dam levels, but also on the capacity to get water from dams to treatment plants. Could you elaborate on the challenges and strategies involved in this process?
Yes, what Anthony meant is that it is to get water from the treatment from the treatment plants, treated water from the treatment plants to the citizens. We're not having any trouble in getting water from the dams to the treatment plants, but we don't have limitless capacity of treatment plants to treat the water. So when there's been shortages of water in Gauteng in recent months and the past year or two, it hasn't been due to a lack of water in the dams. It's been due to the fact that Rand Water has limited treatment and storage capacity, and when there's been problems which have often been linked to load shedding or other electrical or mechanical breakdowns, then that has resulted in a situation where the municipalities which buy the treated water from Rand Water haven't been able to obtain sufficient treated water to meet the demand, and there's been some temporary shortages.
Now, South Africa is ranked among the top 30 driest countries globally. In the context of this water scarcity, what specific measures is the Department of Water and Sanitation implementing to encourage water conservation among residents and industries as well?
Well, the main measure, as I mentioned, is the communication campaign. But in addition, we set norms and standards for the tariffs which are set by municipalities, and we encourage municipalities to put in place step tariffs so that people and households and industries which use large amounts of water have to pay more for using large amounts of water, so that there are financial incentives for people to use water sparingly. We're also encouraging people to use water-efficient sanitation systems. Amongst domestic users, flushing water down the toilet is one of the main demand sources for water. And we're encouraging people to install water-efficient cisterns in their houses, and for new developers to do the same. We're also encouraging industry to use water more efficiently, and we work closely with industry associations such as the agricultural sector, which is a major user of water in South Africa, for them to use water-efficient methods of irrigation.
Now, the guidelines for water conservation also include practical tips like reducing shower times and also fixing leaks. Could you share more comprehensive strategies that the department is considering to implement to address long-term water scarcity here?
Fixing leaks is a key issue, and it's one of our biggest worries and one of the main reasons why for the high demand for treated water in municipalities. Unfortunately, the amount of leaks in the municipal water distribution systems is increasing. In some municipalities, it's 50% or higher. So we have various grants, infrastructure grants that we make available to municipalities to assist them to deal with their infrastructure backlogs. And we're encouraging the municipalities to utilize those grants to address the issues of leakages. The leakages, the main source of the leakages is because municipalities have aging infrastructure and they have old pipes underground, which are sometimes bursting and are leaking. So it's expensive to fix these leaks. There are also leaks within people's homes and taps, but the larger amount of water is water that's leaking from the large underground pipes in the municipal distribution system. Now, municipalities could save a lot of money if they were to fix those leaks and to replace those pipes, because they have to buy the water that leaks out of those pipes from the water boards. It's treated water. So we're also encouraging municipalities to enter into partnerships with the private sector, where the private sector can work with them and invest in replacing those pipes. And that will result in savings for the municipality, which can be used to provide the private sector with a return on their investments. We've established a water partnerships office together with the Development Bank to provide financial structuring assistance and technical advice to them to put in place such partnerships with the private sector.
Now, the Vaal Dam's water level has dropped just slightly, but it is highlighted that the current levels remain healthy. How does the department define and assess the health of dam levels, especially when compared to historical data? Well, the dams have a certain capacity, and when we say they're 100% full, it means that the capacity that they were designed in terms of the amount of water that they can hold, it has been reached. The dams can't hold any more water than that, because if they did, then they would become dangerous and that there would be too much pressure on the dam walls.
So we can't allow the dams to go much higher than 100% because then there's a risk that the dam wall might fail. So when the dams become too full, we have to let some water out of the dams.
Now, despite the decline, the Groot Dry Dam's current level is also considered relatively high. Could you elaborate on the criteria that's used to determine what constitutes a relatively high water level and also its implications for water supply stability here?
Well, as I indicated, almost all the dams in the country are full. They're more than 90% full. Some of them are 100% full. There's only a few areas in the country where the dams are 50% or less full. So, for example, in Gauteng in the Eastern Cape, you will recall that there was a risk of having a day zero in that area because the dams were practically empty. But fortunately, there has been rainfall in that area as well, and even those dams are in a much better condition than they used to be, in the region of 30 or 40 or 50% full. But for the rest of the country, the dams are between 90% and 100% full, which means that we're not at all concerned with the issue of whether there's sufficient water in the dams.
Yeah.
That is not, when water supply problems are experienced in communities in this time when there's sufficient water in the dams, it's caused by problems with the municipal distribution system rather than the amount of water in the dams.
As we wrap up our conversation, just help us shed more light into the department's longer-term strategies to also ensure water dam security and also just ensure that indeed there is this effort to also include maintenance as part of your plan.
Yes. We have a multi-pronged long-term strategy to ensure water security in the country. Firstly, we are building more dams. There are a number of new dam projects underway. The biggest one, for example, is the second phase of the Lesotho Highlands project, which is now underway to build another large dam high up in the mountains in Lesotho, which will supply additional water to the Vaal River system to increase water security for Gauteng and also some of the neighboring provinces. There are a number of other dam construction projects underway around the country, and in some cases we're also raising the walls of some of the dams so that they can store more water. But there are limits to which we can ensure security of supply through capturing more surface water. Because South Africa is a water-scarce country, there isn't a limitless supply of water in the rivers that we can capture in dams. And we have to be careful that we don't create an unsustainable situation where we dam up too much of the water so that the rivers can't run properly, which would result in problems downstream and result in environmental problems as well as problems with the supply of water to downstream users from the dams. So in the longer term, we are also going to need to look at other sources of water, diversifying our water mix. We're going to need to make more use of groundwater in a sustainable way. And in the future, we're going to, especially in our coastal towns, we're going to need to make increasing use of desalination of seawater. We think that desalination of seawater is going to become progressively cheaper over time as it becomes a more widely used technology worldwide, in a similar way to which renewable energy has become cheaper over time. And so we're busy planning now for the future increased use of seawater desalination. And then perhaps the most important final point, Nklanhle, is to say that all of us in South Africa must keep focusing on using water sparingly and efficiently. Addressing the leaks in the municipal distribution systems must be a priority for all municipalities, because even if we diversify all of our water sources in the ways that I've mentioned, we will still run the risk of running short of water unless we also implement water conservation and demand management and use water sparingly.
That was Dr. Sean Phillips, the Director General in the Department of Water and Sanitation.